All right. Good morning, everybody. And my delivery person is arriving just as I'm going live. Happy Tuesday morning. It's Bethany Dotson here, relationship coach and trauma sensitive yoga therapist for high performing, successful single women who have a usually lifelong pattern of attracting emotionally unavailable or even narcissistic partners. And today I want to go live and talk about the trap of avoiding dating. So if you hop on live, please let me know that you're here. Say hello, drop a question for me in the comment box. I'm here to answer your questions and offer clarity. I'm also here to shift your beliefs on what you believe is possible for you after toxic relationships. So the first thing that I'm just going to dive right in. So the first thing that I want to say is that, several years of doing this work specifically online and speaking to and working with hundreds of women, hundreds of women who have taken many years off of dating, sometimes upwards of 10 years or even longer. What I notice, the data that I've collected, is that it does not matter how long you take off dating, because what I've noticed is that women who take many years off dating will start to feel like they're ready, get on a dating site, or maybe meet someone through work, and then wind up in the same predicament. Another emotionally unavailable partner, or even a narcissistic or abusive partner that's oftentimes worse than the one that she was in love with before. So I want to be really clear that there are a lot of therapists out there. There are a lot of experts, relationship experts, narcissistic abuse recovery experts that tell you need to take a lot of time off dating to work on yourself. And while I agree with that to a certain extent, you do need to heal your trauma and work with someone who is trauma informed. Invest in professional help, especially if narcissistic abuse has followed you from relationship to relationship, and you also know that you have childhood or developmental trauma. Investing in professional help that is trauma informed is priceless. So that's the first thing. I do believe you need to wait a period of time while you get your bearings and while you start processing some of the trauma that you endured, and work on releasing some of these negative emotions that are plaguing you and work on shifting your mindset. But do I believe that you need to avoid dating completely in order to fix this pattern? No, because when you avoid dating, the number one reason avoiding dating becomes a trap is that really what's happening is a lot of people believe they've been so jaded, they've been so burned, they've been so betrayed, heartbroken, hurt, and they have massive fear and massive trust issues. They buy into the story that if I just avoid the problem, which are men or women, depending on your preference, avoid romantic partners and avoid dating and just avoid that whole area of my life completely, that this will fix my problem of attracting unavailable or narcissistic partners. And that is false. That is false. Because what's really happening is that you're trying to fix an internal problem by rearranging what's going on in the outside, in your external environment. If I remove the possibility of falling in love, of dating again, of online dating, of meeting somebody, of letting somebody into my heart, if I remove that possibility completely from my life, the story that you're telling yourself is that's going to fix my problem. I'm never going to have to deal with this again. And to a certain extent, you might not ever have to deal with that again. But what I have found to be true, and again, after speaking and working with hundreds of women, is that when you try to fix an internal problem, which attracting emotionally unavailable partners and narcissistic partners, while abuse is never your fault, the reason you attract those types of partners is because of stuff that is deeply on the inside with you. It is not about how many dating sites you go on. It's not about how old you are. It's not about how much baggage you have. It's not about where you live and the population that you live in. It doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is what's going on inside with you. And one of the number one reasons that avoiding dating does not work to heal your lifelong pattern of unavailable or narcissistic partners is because you are trying to change the outside and you're not fully addressing the inside. Usually, you might still have, when you go through narcissistic relationships, especially when you have that and you have developmental or childhood trauma, it changes the way your brain is wired. And rewiring that pattern, and it also changes your subconscious beliefs about yourself and what relationships look like and should feel like. I call this your subconscious relationship template. And it's challenging to rewire your brain and to shift your subconscious relationship template, but it is possible, because while there are thousands and thousands of women who endure narcissistic relationships and shut themselves off from the possibility of ever having a loving relationship ever again in the future, there are also thousands and thousands and thousands and hundreds of thousands, if not millions of women who endure narcissistic relationships and then go on to meet a healthy, safe, emotionally available partner. These people have been my clients. It has been my experience. And it's possible. But the biggest thing that you have to overcome, and my lawn guy is here, so many interruptions. The biggest thing that you have to overcome is the beliefs that are embedded within you. Somebody just commented on a post I made earlier today and said that she believes that love isn't worth it. I talked to somebody recently, just a few days ago, who told me, after 57 years of living on this planet and only experiencing unhealthy relationships, that she truly believed her time for attracting a healthy partner was over, that she had blown her chances and that she did not want to try anymore. And if that's your mindset, and if that's your belief system, and you're going to choose to marry that belief system, no pun intended, the results that you get in your life, I can guarantee you, are not going to be optimal. Almost everybody that I've talked to, and again, I've talked to hundreds of women, in spite of the betrayal, in spite of the pain, in spite of the trust issues, in spite of the lack of confidence within themselves and their own self-doubt and their own trauma, nearly 99.9% of everybody that I've talked to, deep down underneath the layers and the mountains of fear, wants to have a healthy relationship. They want to feel safe with someone. They want to share their life with someone. But if you choose to buy into the story that if I avoid dating, that's going to fix my problem, what I find happens is that the problem shows up in other areas of your life. So oftentimes I work with women who are high achievers. They are workaholics. Typically, they're very successful in their careers, but they tend to be people pleasers. They don't know how to set boundaries. They believe that they need to achieve and achieve and achieve in order to feel worthy and successful. So they're banking their worthiness on what they're doing outside, how much money they're making, how hard they're working in their career, how many clients they have. And on the inside, they never truly feel worthy. And they continuously attract guys that can't commit, guys who just want them for sex, guys who ghost them, narcissistic partners, et cetera, et cetera. So avoiding dating, the number one reason this doesn't work is because you're trying to change the outside environment, but your inside and internal belief systems and the trauma that you've endured is still going on in there. And that's going to show up in other ways. If you avoid dating, what I usually see happens is that a lot of women will become workaholics. They will stay chronically busy. They feel like they can't get ahead in their life. They're constantly working. They might have the success, the financial means to, have certain comforts in life, but deep down on the inside, they don't feel happy. They feel like something's missing. They feel lonely. They feel like there's something wrong with them. They feel insignificant and insecure. They might have friends who are draining or emotionally toxic. They might have a hard time setting boundaries with family. They compare themselves often, and usually their inner critic is huge. So it doesn't really matter you can avoid dating. And I often recommend taking a break from dating while you are healing your own stuff and the reasons why you attract these types of people to begin with. But avoiding dating is not a lifelong solution. It is not. It is not a solution. It's not a proven evidence-based method for healing trauma. It is not a proven evidence-based method for healing your own subconscious belief systems, because you're just shifting and rearranging your external environment in the hopes that it fixes the problem. And oftentimes, what also happens is that when you've had narcissistic relationships, you have felt very out of control in those environments. And what I see happen is that women who exit these types of marriages or relationships, their lives start to get smaller because they try to control their environment so much in order to create a sense of safety. But what happens is that they're really limiting their life. They have a small social circle, if they even have a social circle at all. They get in a rut at work where it just feels like they're going to work and going home, or going to work and going home. They might develop a shopping habit where they're spending a little bit, they're spending too much money on stuff to make them feel good that's like temporary. They might develop a wine habit, having a bottle of wine every night in order to kind of take the edge off. So the bottom line, avoiding dating does not heal your trauma. It is not a long-term solution. I mean, you can definitely avoid dating, but I want to be very clear that this does not lead to a healthy relationship. So that's the first step. The first thing that I wanted, the first point that I wanted to make it. The second point that I wanted to make is that when you have an attitude of love isn't worth it, and I'm going to say this with as much compassion and gingerness as possible, but the truth is that when you say love isn't worth it anymore, what you're really saying on some level is I'm not worth it. You're really saying I'm not worth it. And the reason you attracted and stayed too long in a bad relationship is subconsciously on some level, you didn't believe you were worth it. And this is not your fault. Oftentimes it comes from prior conditioning. Even if you had a healthy childhood, a few months with an emotionally manipulative partner can destroy your sense of worthiness and your sense of what's right for me, what's wrong for me, your ability to trust your own inner guidance system, your intuition. So when you say love isn't worth it, and you move through your life kind of with this closed off, jaded, hi, Tamila, I hope I'm pronouncing your name right. Glad to have you here. When you move through your life with this jaded mindset and this, and somebody, I hear a lot of times people will want to tell me their story about, how their ex ruined them. They were married for 20 years. They were married for 10 years. It's been several years since that divorce. They're still stuck. They still feel small. They still feel stagnant. They're not dating. Dating sucks. Men suck. They're vibrating emotionally at a victim mentality. And again, the things that you endure inside of a toxic relationship are not your fault. But what happens after that is 100% your responsibility. It's 100% your responsibility. And for many people who endure that type of trauma, it gets very hard to change, because what happens is that your body gets biochemically addicted to hormonal states that are associated with emotions. So when you feel like life is unfair, or when you feel like your ex is an asshole, or that dating is hard, or you're never going to meet anybody, or you're 50 and how am I supposed to meet somebody at this stage of my life and there's no good men out there, your brain sends neuropeptides into your body to feel contracted, to feel closed off. And the more you do that, just like biting your nails or, mindlessly eating while you're watching Netflix, it becomes an unconscious automatic habit. And so you unconsciously get addicted to feeling like the victim. And a lot of people want to feel like the victim because in a twisted, sick way, it kind of gives them a sense of significance. They felt very insignificant in their relationship. They were trying to get their needs met. And so talking about, still ruminating about what their ex did to them, in some way gives them a sense of importance. It's kind of in a sick, twisted way, but unconsciously it feels better than nothing. So when you have the mindset, and the other really crucial, critical point I want to make is that when you have the mindset of love isn't worth it, and you feel jaded, you feel very mistrustful, you kind of keep people at arm's length, you're number one operating oftentimes from a trauma response, where your trauma response is your body's way of protecting you, but it causes your life to get smaller and smaller and smaller. The other thing that's really going on is when you say love isn't worth it, in so many words, you're really saying, I'm not worth it. And the last thing is that when you are jaded, when you're emotionally kind of living in this stuck place, when you're emotionally believing, I can't have a healthy relationship, it's not worth it for me, relationships are too much work, you have this subconscious energy about you that tends to attract people who need to victimize other people. So the crazy laws of the universe, and I'm not a quantum physicist, and I'm not, a neuroscientist, but the research that I've done, and the my own trainings, the crazy ways that the universe works is that when you are emotionally living as a victim, and feeling like, you're never going to meet anybody, and relationships are too much work, and it's just men are assholes, whatever, it's just too much, you tend to attract people who are also on some level emotionally vibrating the same. So if you feel like a victim, usually what will happen is you're going to attract somebody who needs to victimize to feel significant. You might be getting some kind of sick, twisted sense of significance from feeling like the victim, but what will happen is that you will attract a partner or someone, maybe a coworker, maybe a boss. I tend to work with women who, yes, they attract narcissists in their lives, but they also attract, guess what? Narcissistic bosses. They wind up in really toxic work relationships. They wind up with toxic friendships who drain their boundaries. So when you are getting a sense of significance from being the victim, you're often going to unconsciously attract someone who also needs to get significance from victimizing other people, because subconsciously your programming is a match for each other. And just a quick example from my own life, I have 2 relationships that were toxic and abusive. So toxic relationship number 1, I left. And then I took some time. I immediately got into therapy. I took up, exercising and in different hobbies. I switched careers. I moved to a new city. Like, I did all the right things to kind of start over and get my life together. And a few months later, I was like, okay, I think I'm ready to start dating again. I'm just going to casually date and see what's out there. Just going to go on coffee dates. But I was still living under the guise of all the terrible, shitty things that my ex did to me. And the one person that I attracted, who was my knight in shining armor, played into that. And guess what? He was the worst abuser I've ever experienced in my entire life. So you have to change if you want to have a healthy relationship, if you want to have the opportunity, the possibility. You have to shift your mindset. I'm going to talk about that in a second, and shift the way that you're thinking about it. And most importantly, shift your subconscious beliefs. So when you're jaded and when you feel like love isn't worth it, you're oftentimes going to attract somebody else. It might not be a romantic partner, but it might be your circle of friends. It might be your family. It might be a coworker. It might be your boss, clients who have this same mindset, and the pattern is just going to repeat itself in other areas of your life. So the third and final point that I want to make, and some people might not like this, is that if you are giving up on love because of the trauma that you endured with your ex, again, I can understand why you would do that, because the emotional scarring and the wounding from those relationships runs very, very deep. And just like somebody who, gets in a car accident on the freeway, they might avoid that stretch of the freeway forever and ever and ever and not drive by it, or they might even give up driving for a while. But when you are giving up on love because of a toxic relationship, you are really giving your ex power. You're really allowing your past, stuff that happens to you in the past, to derail your future, to limit the possibilities that are available for you in the future. And we don't make significant changes. We don't break cycles unless we do two things. Well, really three things. Number one, recognize and accept responsibility for the ways that we are holding ourselves back. Accepting responsibility is one of the key tenements that I have in my training, my free training, Break the Cycle, that all of my clients watch before they sign up to work together. It's the free training that's available on my website. But accepting responsibility is one of the first things that you have to get your head around and get your psychology around in order to begin changing. It is not about everybody else. It is not, right? It's really easy to do that. It is really about what's going on within you, right? And the beliefs, the way that you feel about yourself. You know, there's a famous quote by Don Miguel Ruiz in The Mastery of Love. He also wrote the Four Agreements, but he said that nobody will abuse you more than you abuse yourself. So oftentimes what I find is that women who attract abusers tend to have a very, very high inner critic. They tend to be very impossible to meet standards for themselves. Again, they're overachievers, high achievers, but they tend to attract partners who can't meet their standards because they themselves set the bar impossibly high and never feel satisfied with themselves. So understand that, you know, if that tends to be your pattern, the number one place that you really need to look is at what is going on within me. What am I doing? What can I do differently? Accepting responsibility. The second thing that needs to happen is using some kind of trauma-informed healing methodology to overcome your relational trauma, which is a type of trauma that happens in the context of interpersonal or romantic relationships. Relational trauma makes up 86% or more of all the trauma that's out there in people, right? We're all wounded on some level. So using some kind of evidence-based method, we use somatic work here. Somatic therapy involves bringing your body on board. It uses things like gentle movement. I use trauma-sensitive yoga here, breath work, guided meditation, guided self-inquiry, along with coaching, which is designed to help accept you where you are. Your starting point is over here at starting point A, and give you the steps, like little small guideposts and milestones to get you over here to point B, and then deal with all of your mind trash and your resistance and your fear that comes up along that journey. Therapy tends to focus on your past. There's often a lack of accountability in therapy. People get some insights in therapy, but then they don't know how to apply it in their life. Coaching is for you if you've done a lot of therapy and you're like, yes, I know my past was abusive. I know all these things about myself, but I just don't know how to really change. Coaching is prime because it takes you where you are and helps you move forward. So accepting responsibility that, yes, it's probably me that's in the way, and learning to shift your subconscious beliefs, learning to heal your relational trauma with a proven research-based method. And then most importantly, applying and integrating that work into your relationship. So here in my work, we start clients off with the relationship with themselves. Number one, that's what we focus on for the first few weeks, along with trauma somatic protocol that we give them to do every single day to start rewiring their brain and rewiring their subconscious belief systems. And then we expand to their interpersonal relationships, giving them exercises, communication exercises to promote vulnerability with friends, with family, with their kids, ways that they can show up differently in these relationships. And then we widen the container even more and stretch their comfort zones by having them show up differently in dating, making very different empowering choices in dating. So we have an inner to outer process here rather than an outer process of avoiding dating in the hopes it's going to change the inside. So in order to attract a healthy partner, even if you've never had a healthy relationship, in order to feel daily in a state of abundance and joy and optimism and inner peace, even if you exited a 30-year marriage and you don't even know who you are anymore, it takes an inner to outer process. It takes evidence-based methods. It takes coaching. It takes moving out of your comfort zone. So if you are a high achiever, if you're single, divorced, you're done with a toxic partner, you recognize I need to do something very differently about my life. I cannot keep living my life this way. I know I want to have a healthy partner, but I have no idea how I'm going to do that. Then go to bethanydotson.com/talk. We will have a very honest, transparent conversation with you about why you were really still stuck. A lot of people we talk to will tell us, I'm too busy, I'm too old, there are no men in my area, et cetera, et cetera. Usually it's none of those things. It's really something else. So we're going to get you very clear on why you're still stuck. And then most importantly, we're going to get you very, very clear on what you want. Because so many women that we talk to have a perpetual pattern of lowballing themselves, of settling because they don't believe inherently on the inside that they're worth it. So we're going to get you very, very clear on what it is that you truly want. First, just with you and yourself and your life, especially if you're kind of just out in the first few months out of a divorce or a toxic relationship. If you've been out of that relationship for a while and you've been single for years, we're going to get you very clear on what you want in a healthy partner. And then if we feel after that conversation, we're confident, given your specific case, that we can help you get from point A to point B, healthy relationship, we'll give you all the details of working together so that you can make a healthy, informed decision for you. So again, bethanydotson.com/talk. Thank you so much. And I hope you have a wonderful rest of your Tuesday. Have a good one.